Minus 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay. Rep your city. Let me see the mic. Rep your city. Give me the mic. Rep your city. I got you. Rep your city. I'm gonna tell you about mine. Rep your city.
It's time for us to go live, so rep your city. I really would appreciate if y'all roll with me. Feeling this music cause it makes me wanna step. And if you don't wanna do, then you lying to yourself. Cause every time we party, we gon' have fun. I don't know about you, but I'ma rep where I'm from.
Rep your city. Okay. Rep your city. Let me see the mic. Rep your city. Give me the mic. Rep your city.
Welcome to the RYC Live Show this evening. How's everyone doing tonight? My name is Artistic, and I am the host for tonight's show. This is Rep Your City Fresh Fridays. And we have another special episode as we do each and every week, each and every Friday night at 8 p.m. right here live, broadcasting from the base here in Chicago, but we circulate around the globe. We coming to you once again this Friday, this nice warm night. We have a special guest in our backstage area waiting to come up to the front stage. But before I introduce him, I just like some couple of house rules to mention. Please, if you have not done so already, please share this broadcast. Share it to a friend, to a crewmate, to a family member, or anyone that you think that might be interested in listening to our brother's history and learning about his legacy on tonight's segment. You can also, if you like, you can become a subscriber to our channel at RYC Live on our YouTube channel. That's RYC Live on our YouTube channel. Or send us a friend request or follow us on Facebook at RYC Live or Rep Your City on Facebook. You can also connect with us on our Instagram channel, RYC Live. And please do subscribe once again to our YouTube channel. So if you'd like to be also a guest on a future show, please do send us an email to ryclive@yahoo.com. That's ryclive@yahoo.com. And one of us from the team will be more than happy to get back in touch with you to book you for a future date. So let's get right into it. I would like to introduce the man, my brother, originally from California, but now residing in the windy city of the Chi. You know what I'm saying? And one thing I like to say about this brother is one of the freshest, dapperest brothers when it comes to fashion. You know, I've never really seen anyone coordinate colors as fresh as this guy right here. You know, if he put on a hat, the hat is going to match his shirt. If he put on his shirt, the shirt is going to match his pants or his shorts or even his jewelry, you know, for that matter. Just super fresh, you know what I'm saying? So shout out to my brother. So if you all who if you don't know, we have the brother, the man, my homeboy, DJ Handz Solo. Let's bring him out right now. What's up, my brother?
Peace.
How you doing, man?
Living and maintaining, man. Living and maintaining.
That's what's up, man. It's great to see you, man. You know, and as I mentioned before, man, like I always, and I don't know if I ever told you, man, but you know, super shout out, man, and mad love to you, my brother. Always keeping the gear looking fresh. You know what I'm saying? Like everything you do, man, like just the whole ambiance of your swag, man, is super fresh, man. I appreciate that too.
I appreciate that. Appreciate the love.
Yeah. So, you know, and people don't realize that, you know, some people may not realize that fashion is really a big important part of hip hop, man. It's a main element in my opinion, you know.
It is, no doubt at all. I'm, you know, obviously an older gentleman. I'm graying like a bad day, but I age well. But you're right. I mean, if you're a true historian of hip hop and things of that nature, you can go back and always see that fashion things and a lot of flash and so forth was part of the game.
Yes, yes. So what we like to do here tonight, my brother, is relax, enjoy this interview. But what we want to do is go all the way back to the beginning. And so you have a two-part role here. So we're gonna talk about your history in Chicago. But before we do that, we want to go back to California. So
Okay,
we want to kind of start off there because you're originally from California, correct?
correct. I'm from Pasadena, California.
Yes.
Um, so that's where my story begins.
Yes.
Um, and you're right. My story is like Kobe Bryant. When he changed numbers, he had two different careers.
Yeah.
I changed cities, two different careers. A first half and a second half. So, I'm blessed to see the second half as well.
That's what's up. So let's take the viewers over to the West Coast and let's
Okay.
talk about because I mean I remember when I was coming up, I'm born and raised in Chicago, but I remember watching both coasts. We were the guys in the middle, but I remember looking over east and I remember looking over west and just like seeing how the dynamics of both of those regions of the country were doing their thing when it came to hip hop, and we would kind of bounce our heads, from coast to coast to keep up with what was going on. And I know for a long time some of the cats in New York didn't like when hip hop began to leave New York and go to other cities around America. And especially when you guys started doing y'all thing in California, California started to come up out that dirt, you know what I'm saying, and show its face, and people were like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on over here? you know. So
Yeah.
talk about like the beginning and what was it for you? When did you start and what was it that influenced you to want to get into it?
Um, you know, it's almost like Shan, you love to hear the story again and again. When I lived in California, the ironic thing with a lot of people that are DJs, me and my friends, we played basketball and we cut hair.
Okay.
Um, when I started showing, because early on, I had a friend when I was younger, and we were b boys. I thought I could be a breaker. I sucked. No big
Okay.
deal on that.
Right.
Um, I could draw, so I dabbled in graphics and so forth. I did know how to draw. When I got to high school, I took cartooning and all that because I was talented at drawing. But I just never really pursued it with all my heart. Um, at the time when I was younger, a teenager, I had a friend, my friend Chris, rest in peace. His older brother was a DJ,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to see him DJing in the room. And a lot of my other friend that lived around the corner, his name was Jason and Damon, and they had older brothers like these. They were 18, 19, and so forth when we were all shorties, 10, 11, whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd be over there breaking, but I'd see them DJing, in the garage and stuff while we're trying to break on the cardboard out in the garage and so forth. Um, and like Daryl and Jeff went on to be featured in the movie Breaking. Um, if everybody remembers that, that was like the West Coast B Street, basically. Um, and I seen them, but I still didn't have a love for it. So, when I got to high school, like I said, I was playing basketball, and you know, my friend Sean, shout out to my man Sean. Me and Sean linked up through basketball. Sean's cousin Charles had left his DJ equipment over Sean's house. So we started experimenting and playing around with it, but nothing major because, like I said, we were still heavily into playing basketball and so forth because we played high school basketball. But ironically, I met Sean because we were both cut from the team on the same day for being ineligible. Um, Mine was not for grades. I was tardy every day, so my attendance wasn't that counted back then as far as your eligibility.
Okay.
Um, so when his cousin left the stuff over there, we started messing around with it, and as I told you earlier, my friend Chris, his brother, older brother Craig, who I watched earlier, me and Craig were still friends, and so Craig was hanging out with me one day, and we went by there, and Craig, he started messing with the turntables, but like I said, he's far more advanced than us at that point in time. He started, cutting up Run DMC. What was it? I forgot the song now, but he was cutting up Run DMC, and I could hear something there. And then at the time, Crush Groove came out. The Jam Master Jay part where Run and them come to the show and he's pissed, but Daryl and Jay are out on the stage and Jay is cutting up the run, chibber, and to get the crowd going.
Right.
And that sparked my interest more. I was like, I like that. Maybe that's something that I can do. But that was what I forgot when that movie came out. What, 84, I think, or something like that.
That was actually 85.
Yeah. Okay. So 84, 85 around there. I still wasn't fully sold. So it wasn't until actually 87 that I knew that I wanted to be a DJ. My friend DJ Homicide, who most of you guys know is DJ Homicide, that DJ'd for the group Sugar Ray. We were at his house, and he had a bootleg copy of the New Music Seminar, which featured DJ Cash Money versus Joe Cooley. And after watching that, I decided right then that's what I wanted to do. So in 1988, I officially started DJing. Me and my man Sean. I wasn't called Handz Solo then. I think I was DJ. We were called Slam and Jam or something corny like that.
Okay.
And then like the year after, I think I changed my name to Assassin, and because we were hanging out with Craig and his name was DJ Homicide, so it was Assassin Homicide. And then my friend Sean called himself Suicide.
Okay.
But that's when we got heavy into it, and back then, if you could get hold of a bootleg VCR tape back then, or we were getting mixtapes from people that were going to New York and so forth. So we were hearing the things that DJs were doing, and we started honing our craft. When I started wanting to get better again, like when I really kept cementing myself forward, was 87 as well. Bigger and Deffer came out, LL, and I heard Bobcat scratching, and Bobcat's from the West Coast, legendary DJ Bobcat. Shout out to Bobcat.
Yes, sir.
That's my man. And Bobcat is the person that kind of introduced me to the swag. I caught Bobcat on an episode of Saturday Night Live, and he had an Adidas suit on, and he had a white. It looked like a raccoon hat, but it wasn't a raccoon hat because the tail was way longer.
Mm-hmm.
But his showmanship and everything that he did, had me back in the lab. I wanted to combine styles of a lot of things that I was starting to learn and see. So as you were talking about earlier in swag, if anybody has ever seen a tape of the New Music Seminar from 87, Joe Cooley's got the finger waves, he's got Gazelles on, the 951s, an Adidas suit. I mean, Cash isn't swagged out. He got just basically a t-shirt on. But if you also know about that seminar, and I'm assuming that Ice-T is the person that originally had the original footage, because there's a part where Joe Cooley is battling Mr. Mix from the 2 Live Crew, and Mr. Mix at that time, he's in the 2 Live Crew. He has the big dookie rope chain on.
Right.
And you can hear Ice-T yelling, "Hey man, you better take that gold off. It's getting serious in here." But as you were saying, that was just part of the swag. He's got on the Dookie ropes like Run DMC and them had on.
Right.
Um, and actually when you learn later, it's a little bit hard. It's a little bit harder when you're show DJing and you're going to do things with things like that on because they have a tendency to kind of get in your way because it's dangling and swinging.
Yeah.
Sometimes it catches your fader and so forth. But in relation to your question, those were like you were pointing out. Those were things that added swag back then, and things that we were noticing. Um, so basic story is I start going through. We start DJing house parties. Me, Sean, Craig, another guy named Scratch and D. Um, Shout out to my peoples from 360, DJ Broadway, LC. They were already into production. LC had a contract with Profile. Broadway was doing production. Broadway's done a lot of production and so forth for King T and Alcoholics, Madcap. So they were older, so all of us guys were still in high school. And so we started DJing house parties, picking our bones and building ourselves up. As we graduated from school, this is 90, going into 91, me and Sean kind of stayed together. Everybody else kind of just drifted apart. Homicide started, he was like the Alcoholic show DJ for a while before he linked up with Sugar Ray, and then, that part of his life just took off. Me and Sean DJ'd the parties, the school dances, and all these things, and that was incredible because it was like when you're in your city and you're doing those things at that point in time, it's like you're like a mini celebrity. Everybody knows you. We're going to other house parties and we're getting in free or whatever when they're charging people because they know who you are and so forth. And it was just a fun atmosphere, because Pasadena is a suburb of Los Angeles where a lot of things are going on, and most people only associate a lot of LA's hip hop with Compton and Long Beach, later when Snoop came along. But there's a lot of cities and things outside of that where a lot of hip hop was going on. Pasadena, Hollywood, like places like West Covina and things like that. There were groups coming out. What are they called? Lighter Shade of Brown and things like that. Everybody's not from Compton or Long Beach.
Okay.
Just as well as, California is a really big place. So, that's when you have the Bay Area hip hop as well, and people overlook a lot of these things because of that. And LA's so diverse in hip hop. And I think that's what made things with New York so competitive, because when New York was doing, basically what we look at is hardcore hip hop or boom bap hip hop, LA's hip hop was more electro in the beginning. You had things like the Egyptian Lover and Dre and, the World Class Wrecking Crew. But a lot of those records were considered electro records. They weren't really what, the samples and the break beats and things that New York was on.
Okay.
So 92 or so, I started, we started dabbling in the clubs in Hollywood, going to, clubs like Unity. Nobody's ever seen it or heard of it. Unity was a huge hip hop venue in LA, and it would be at different locations. My man, shout out to Mark Love. Mark Love was the resident DJ of that. Bigga B, rest in peace to him, was one of the promoters in Orlando. Bigga B had the benefit of working at Loud. And at this time, Unity would always have the hip hop acts basically free. They would perform at Unity. So Wu-Tang Clan, Mobb Deep, J. Rue the Damager, Gangstar, all these people would be there performing because they're promoting their album. So you would see so much hip hop and these artists, and it's not like today where they were separated. They would be mingling in the crowd because there was no green rooms and all this other nonsense that goes on now.
Right.
They were in the crowd with you, before they went on, just hanging out and so forth, absorbing it. But when I got in there, I wasn't on. I wasn't from Hollywood. I wasn't from at Lamert Park or any of these places where like place people like their Freestyle Fellowship and Medusa and Mark Love himself and Kilu and all these places were from. I'm from Pasadena. They know a little bit about us, but not a lot.
Mm.
So I went to a spot called the Graveyard Shift, and I used to carry a backpack full of cassette tapes, TDK tapes or whatever,
Mhm.
with mixes on them, and I would just give them out in the club to anybody. Somehow one of the tapes got in the hand of the promoter, Aleem. Shout out to Aleem if he ever sees this or watching. Um, and so I get a call, and he's asking me, if I made the tape, and I said, yeah. So he invited me back for a guest slot there, um, and I rocked. Prince Whipper Whip used to be the host in there.
Hmm.
So shout out to Whip. Kaz used to come through. Uh, and when I got in there, I started rocking, and that became my spot of residency along with like people like Kilu, and then there was a guy named Sony and Higher that used to rock reggae because this club had like it was basically a soundstage place, so but they turned it into a club, so there was multiple rooms in there with different music going on. Um, but me and Aleem also linked up because Aleem was rapping and he needed a DJ, so me and him ended up linking on that too, and we became roommates and all this. And the ironic thing about LA hip hop is, when I first met Aleem, I went to his house, his apartment. And at that time, he was living with Exhibit. Um, I had no knowledge of who Exhibit is, but the craziest thing when I met Exhibit, Exhibit had this pet snake, and the snake wouldn't eat, and he had told me he was gonna put the mouse in the blender, and I was, I was kind of thinking to myself, what the fuck is this guy? Oh, you know what? Is it okay if we swear on here?
Well, we want to keep it down to a minimum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I didn't mean that. But Exhibit was kind of like, what the f? In my mind, I'm thinking this dude is crazy.
Right.
He put that mouse in the blender, man. I don't know. And then ironically, he was dating a young lady, and it was ironic because Sean's older brother had dated her. So when I got there, she knew me and I knew her. And, I didn't want to make it seem weird or something like, that me and her messed around or anything. But also it was ironic in the same building that Aleem lived in, will.i.am lived in from the Black Eyed Peas.
Okay.
And I always laugh because, everybody sees all these people after the success stories. And, I think back and I'm like, damn, I remember me and Aleem moved into an apartment like basically around the corner from where he lived. And I remember Will used to have a Pontiac Fiero, and I remember he got a boot. And we were laughing about it, messing with him about it. And then, it's kind of weird because a lot of people see all these people as global stars now, and a lot of these guys I remember before all that came into play, hanging out with these guys. So as I'm in Hollywood doing my thing, me and Aleem and so forth, Aleem's recording, trying to get his things going. That's how I got introduced to people like Razzcast and a couple of others, like people from Western Hemisphere, Mean Green and Voodoo, Saphir, is because Aleem's producer was this cat named Bird, and Bird had produced a lot of Razzcast's music. And me and Bird would go back and forth because when I would be in the studio cutting, at that time, Gangstar was getting, a lot of burn and a lot of hits. So me and Bird would get into it because Bird wanted me to cut like Premiere. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be the guy that came out and I sounded like Premiere.
Mm-hmm.
For me being the DJ that I am, that's a no-no for me.
Right.
So, me and him went through some classic wars of words and things like that. But, as I was making my name through there, along with that comes a lot of errors being young and not being surrounded with, surrounding yourself with the right people to make good decision, have good decision making on things you're doing. there were times where I was supposed to go to the studio and I'm hanging out with my friends and we're going to clubs because I could get all of us in and so forth like that, and never showed up to the studio session. And, you know, over time that rubs people the wrong way, and eventually your phone will stop ringing. Um, but then in the same apartment, the weirdest, sometimes you get the weirdest blessings, me and my man Shot, uh, you know, Shock was like my homeboy from high school, and he was staying with me. And so one day we're coming back in the elevator. We get in, elevator stops in the lobby, door opens up, and Doodlebug from Diggable Planet gets in the elevator.
Oh wow.
So me and Shock looking at each other, we like, that's Doodlebug. So he looks back at us, we like, what's up, Doodlebug? Just we didn't know what to say. It was awkward. Like
Yeah.
so. Oh, excuse me. So we go, we ride the elevator up. I get off on my floor, Doodlebug's still on. He's still on the elevator going up. So me and Shaka go back in the room. We turn on the equipment. In California, a lot of times, it's hot. So,
Right.
Not like here where you can get on the budget plan or something, for your AC.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't like that there. So, I wasn't trying to burn the AC. So we had the windows open in the apartment. And I lived on the side closer where the pool is, where the courtyard is. So it echoes and, echoes out when you're making a lot of noise and so forth. So I'm DJing and then we hear like a knock on the door. So we stop the music, we open the door, and it's Doodlebug again.
Wow.
So, he's like, hey, are you guys playing the music or whatnot? We're like, yeah. And I thought, we were too loud or something. He's like, yeah, who was scratching? So I was like, yeah, that was me. He's like, hey, I got an artist upstairs that I'm working with. Hey, can you come by the studio and do some scratches tonight? So I'm like, hell yeah. Yeah. So, we go upstairs and I meet his man, Ugo. We're hanging out with them. I go to the studio that night. Once again, let me clear it for you, artistic. Here's where you don't take care of your business. Never once did I ask anything about money or rights or anything. I was asking him about Ladybug. 'Cause I used to have a crush on Ladybug.
Okay.
So I'm asking him, yeah, man, what's up with Ladybug? Where's Ladybug at? Never once did I think about either. So I do the cuts on the song and all that, and we're smoking and so forth. Because back then I used to smoke weed. We're smoking. I leave. I got a cassette tape of what I did, so I can listen to it and all that.
Right.
But like I said, never once did I clear up my paperwork or anything. So, after that, we're hanging out daily upstairs. So, it was a group called the Wascals that was out in LA too. So we're over there, and that's when Madden, what is it, 92 or 93 is out. So we're over there playing that in NBA Live, NBA, whatever it was, the college basketball game.
Okay.
And it's competitive over there. So me and my man Sean is playing against Doodlebug and his man, and they're trying to use secret codes and while they're playing. And we kind of knew the game pretty good. So we were playing with we played with the Atlanta Falcons because Deion Sanders on that game was ridiculous with speed.
Okay.
But they were saying things like Allah Akbar left, and we like, all right, they about to run and play to the left, man. So me being the person I am, I'm shifting the line over because I'm like, so we're beating them. Then we started just trash talking with them. My man broke open for a run. He's like, yeah, we zoom like that. We out. Everybody's laughing. Then they started playing the basketball game, which I'm not very good at, but my man Sean is. And Sean is beating everybody in there with, I think, Duke. And at that time, Ed O'Bannon was on there and Joe Smith. So everybody's playing with those teams, but Sean is beating them with a Duke team that wasn't that good. The cat Alfalfa from the Wascals, Sean had beat him so bad he got mad and left. So a couple of days later, we're supposed to go to the video shoot for Ugo's song. I didn't make the video shoot. I didn't have a car at the time, and Sean was supposed to pick me up, and something happened. He told me, but I never made it to the video shoot. But to fast forward that story, when the song comes out, it's called Straight from the Heart. You can look it up on YouTube. It's by an artist named Ugo. I laid the cuts in there, but at the end of the song, he says Funk Master Flex.
Wow.
So to the general public, they would think that Funk Master Flex did the cuts on that record.
Wow.
And that's why I told you, like, when you don't take care of your necessary paperwork or whatnot, that's what happens to you. That, there's no recollection of that, for most people. I gave a copy of it to Ron, DJ Ron, B-Boy Ron, as most of y'all know.
Yeah.
He has a copy of the record too, because I gave him one of them, because Ugo gave me a copy of the record, but like I said, that never happened. So after all that, me and Aleem had a slight fallout over some things with music and so forth, and so we weren't going to be roommates anymore. I moved to San Francisco because my homeboy Jeremy was going to college out there, and I just needed to change the scenery for a little bit. So I went to visit him, and I kind of liked it up there for a while. So I told him I would move up there. So I move up there. Now I'm in new territory again. So get my backpack, my cassette tapes, and I set out and I do the same thing. Pass them out. I got lucky. Jeremy knew a guy named J-Mo. J-Mo was DJing at this place called Nikki's Barbecue on Haight Street. So I appeared there with him. I rocked it. Had more tapes. I gave them out. I landed my first residency there at this place called Club Deco, and I would DJ there. And there are nights. It was a nice spot. Probably a little bigger than Sub T.
Okay.
But the ironic part with there was like how Sub T, the downstairs lounges, they had that would have been like the main floor, and then they had a downstairs part that was a little smaller. But it was a nice spot. So, I rocked there for a while, and I opened up there for Dirty's group. What were they called? The Brooklyn Zoo.
Okay.
And so I rocked there. People came through there. I seen Kubert through there before. I seen Shortcut, Apollo, and when you're good at something, people give you, your respect and so forth.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you that, we were friends or anything like that, but, I earned my respect with them, and I respected what they did.
Right.
After that, my name got to be known, and I got cool with people like the Pirate DJs who they still run one of the most incredible parties I went to. It's called Cream of Beat. And it still goes on to this day. But them, the original DJs with DJ Red and Supreme and them. So I started hanging out with a lot of the Who's Who cats in that scene, doing things. With some of those appearances, like any other city, there were politics involved in it. And so they weren't necessarily willing to put the new guy on because there was other cats around the city that wanted to rock some of these events like Cream of Beat and so forth. But so I never rocked the Cream of Beat, but they always showed me love. So if I showed up with 30 people at Cream of Beat, me and 30 people went in, and no questions asked.
Right.
An ironic story is San Francisco's different than Los Angeles. It's a lot slower pace.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun city, but it's a different pace than Los Angeles. And people used to know all the time I was from LA because I was always in such a hurry or for something. So, back then, before all these digital things and like that, you were either record pools or you went to labels to get your vinyl. When I lived in LA, I would just go to the labels and so forth. When I moved to San Francisco, I was in record pools, but I was so used to LA that I was like, yo, man, I got to get this now. And they're like, hey, man, we sent it to you, man. Relax, so, take it easy. And I'm like, I just didn't understand their mindsets of how chill they were.
Right.
Um, but so I decided I wanted to move back to Southern California, back to LA. So the night I was leaving, me and my friends, we threw this big party at our house, and then we went to this club called 181, and we were probably 20 deep because some friends from LA had came up, as well as our friends from there, and I don't know, there was a couple of people we didn't know that came over with somebody else. But the ironic part is we get to this party, and it's Pam the Funkstress, rest in peace, who used to be the DJ for the Coop. It's her birthday, and Smooth the Hustler is performing. And that was the main reason we wanted to go. We wanted to see Smooth the Hustler. Now, at this point in time, there's an opening act for this event. That opening act is Jay-Z.
Oh, wow.
and so, it's kind of funny because nobody's going to ever remember Jay-Z's early career. Most people just know him as Hove now.
Right.
But, all the things that you see on the videos and all that later, it wasn't like that night. He's at the bar, but me and my friends were buying, crazy drinks and everything. He was just a guy there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, it's kind of weird how somebody just blows up. You know what I mean? Because like I said, we were there to see Smooth the Hustler.
Right.
Now, we're in 2023, right?
Right.
Where's Smooth the Hustler now?
Right.
It's just ironic how things can happen.
Right.
But, I moved back to LA. Before I moved back to LA too, more of my competitive nature wanted to come out because I finally wanted to really start embracing and getting into DJ battles. As I told you, Cash Money is still my favorite DJ of my top 5. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But I had never been in battles really. Outside of little small things. So I wanted to enter DMC. I just didn't know how. I didn't know how to go about it. I knew no avenues or anything like that.
Right.
But I went to the 1995 DMC in San Francisco, the U.S. Finals. And Sinister was in it, Babu, and this white guy from Ohio wins the DMC U.S. Finals, DJ Swamp. Swamp was awesome. He had done some. He just didn't sound like anybody else there.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say it was overcomplicated, but what he did was dope, and he didn't sound like anybody else. In the battle, I was rooting for Sinister. I thought what Sinister did was incredible.
Right.
But Swamp wins. So now I'm like, man, I gotta figure out how to get in this. So I moved back to LA, and I want to say it was Mr. Chalk from the Beat Junkies that put me on to who to contact to get in.
Okay.
So I think it's the 96 one. 96, they had the DMC at Lamert Park. I get in, and my man Scratch and D, who I used to, in high school, we was buddies. So we figure out how to get in. We practice together and so forth. We're making routines, we're practicing, warming up. Yeah, that was a train wreck. I train wrecked in that DMC because I didn't understand how to control my energy and showmanship. I was so amped up to do what I was going to do that it just train wrecked. Rhythmatic ended up winning that DMC.
Okay.
I entered the Zulu Nation battle as well in LA. They had a Zulu Nation battle with Shortcut won. But after that, I started entering just a lot of little battles. Then DMC 98 came. I went to San Francisco to compete because they didn't have an LA heat. I didn't do well, but I didn't do bad. I didn't train wreck or anything. Like I'd done some things that were dope, and I met this cat named Nut. Rest in peace to Nut. And Nut was from LA. He used to DJ for Jail Felony. So me and him linked up, and we were gonna form a crew. So we came back, and now we're entering all the little battles that we can, all the any record store battle, whatever. We're entering these battles and we're competing with the likes of P-Trix and Cleanse Rock and these guys from IF2 who were basically, I mean, they weren't subs of the Beat Junkie crew, but they were birthed under them basically. But a lot of these cats are all Filipino cats. So me and Nut, we felt like we were getting jerked in these competitions. So when we came up with our name for the group, we were going to call ourselves the Negro League DJs. And we were going to be the anti-establishment. Like at that point right there, we didn't really care if we won or lost anymore. We were going in to diss everybody that we could. Everybody we faced, we were going to diss them somehow.
Okay.
And try to level the playing field. And it's ironic because I was in a battle one time and someone had told me they heard Mellow D say that I was like, I think Mellow D didn't like it, and he had told somebody that I was like a West Coast X-Men. And which, shout out to the X-Men. I don't, at that point in time, I took offense to it because the things that I was doing, I didn't get from the X-Men. Okay. So, my DJ heroes predate Rock Raider and Rob Swift and all these guys. Rest in peace to Rock Raider. He's an incredible DJ.
Right.
But the things and the tricks and things that I knew predated those guys. A lot of people in DJ history, when they're thinking of people, a lot of people's DJing starts with, like I said, the Rock Raiders, Q-Birds, Crazes, and things like that. And people seem to forget the DJ Scratches, the Jazzy Jeffs, the Cash Moneys, the Joe Coolies, the DJ Aladdins, the Bobcat, all these people that were before that.
Right.
So, my top 5 DJs goes Cash Money, Bobcat, Scratch, DJ Miz from Philly, and DJ Aladdin. Okay. All those people predate Rock Raider and them.
Right.
And then the tricks that Rock Raider and them have done were done prior to them by other DJs.
Okay.
So, at this time when me and Nut are doing our thing, like I said, I took a little bit of offense to that because it showed me how much somebody doesn't know about the past. Yeah. For me, there's no future if you don't know the history of the past and the people that came before you. Don't just etch yourself in right there and say, hey, this person, started this. They didn't. There was somebody else, I'm quite sure, before.
Right.
So after that, we started, doing the battles. We were all prepping up because in 1999, DMC started having regional battles like a lot of places, which we thought was dope because we figured, because before DMC basically had it was almost like two battles, East Coast heat and a West Coast heat. And the top 3 from those 2 heats would go because that's how Pumpin' Pete went. Right. He won the regional. Right. So they used to only have 2 like that. This time it's more like it close to what it is now, where if the promoter was willing to put up the money, you could have a host of DMC battle in your city. So we were strategizing on where we would go, where we thought there were the weakest DJs to get us to the next point where we were trying to go. Unfortunately, me and my man Nut got injured, and me and my other homeboy Bam competed in the DMC in LA. We were strategizing to go to St. Louis, and my man Nut, his girlfriend killed him.
Wow.
So at that point right there, I didn't go to that battle in St. Louis. After that, I competed in a couple more battles, and for some reason after that, I hooked up with this guy named JB. And this is 2000, and me and JB went on I don't know how he did it, but it was like a USO tour. Like, those guys that go to the military bases. So we went to the military bases in Germany, Hungary, Budapest, and we performed for the troops there. we were supposed to be there longer. That lasted a week and a half before we were sent home. When you go to the military bases, they're really strict on what you can do as civilians and so forth. So one of the clauses in our contract was horseplay, because you couldn't have alcohol on the base, and they didn't even have alcohol. They had refrigerators full of near beer.
Oh, okay.
If you've never had near beer, it's non-alcoholic beer.
Okay. Okay.
For somebody like me, I don't understand the purpose of something like that. But back then we weren't really drinkers anyway, so we didn't care.
Right.
But where we violated things was we were at sound check, and JB and his hype man Chris were horse playing. They were slap boxing, and I don't know, artistic. I don't never know a slap boxing match that doesn't turn serious.
Right. Right. Right.
So, they had one of those plastic picnic tables in there, and they're slap boxing, and they got serious. And JB punched Chris, and when I tell you this, Chris fell through the table, and it looked just like wrestling, man. Like the way he falls through the table. But where we got in trouble was because there were soldiers in the auditorium, just in there observing. So we got in trouble for getting into a skirmish in front of the military, and they don't play. They put us on a plane back to the United States the next day. And that was the end of that excursion. And at that point right there, I felt that between the bridges that I had burned down from not showing up to the studio, and my friend Nut getting killed, we're competitive battling, and then, the episode in Germany, I just walked away. I said, enough is enough.
Okay.
I said, I just don't want to do it anymore. I was like, you know what? I didn't get rid of my equipment or anything like that. I just didn't want to be involved no more in the scene and all that.
Okay.
I just went and got a regular 9 to 5.
Okay.
So, I'm still in LA. 2007, 2006, my sister has my nephew. She decides she's gonna move to Wisconsin because at the time, my mom was staying in Wisconsin with because I have a lot of family there. My mom had multiple sclerosis, and they told her there were better doctors for that in Milwaukee. So she had moved back here because my parents were long divorced.
Okay.
I don't know, somewhere along the line, my sister thought it was a good idea. She was going to move too. And so she moved with my nephew. So that basically left me and my dad in California. For some reason, I just had this inkling all of a sudden that I miss family because I didn't want to not grow up in my nephew's life.
Right.
By him moving. And I understood, his dad was in gangs and things like that. And his dad was in jail, in and out of jail. And I wanted to be the positive role model in my nephew's life.
Okay.
So when my sister moved, there was this just sense of being kind of lost and family. So somewhere along the line, I decided I wanted a change of scenery from California again. My first thought was I wanted to move to New York, because my whole time in LA, people always thought I was from New York. They kept telling me, man, you belong in New York. You would be able to do great things because of the way I DJed and so forth. People thought I was from New York.
Okay.
And I've always had a lot of respect from people in New York, which is dope. Considering, like you said, I'm from LA, and that's always been a coastal war.
Right.
Even through the DJ world, like I said, it wasn't necessarily New York, but in the DJ world in the early beginnings, it was, the LA DJs and the Philly DJs, because Philly DJs was nasty. They was holding it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't want to move to New York though, because I was like, man, you know what? I don't necessarily know anybody in New York that really I can say is my friend or no. I know people, but that's just through music and so forth.
Right.
So I said, man, if something happens to me, I'll just become a statistic. That's not going to be smart. Okay. So same with Miami and Atlanta, like all those places were in my mind. Then the light bulb just went off. I said, you know what? I'm gonna give my family a chance to get to know me as an adult. I'm gonna move to Chicago because Chicago is an hour away from Wisconsin.
Right.
I had never been to this city, but it seemed like a bright idea at the time. Um, so in 2007, I moved to Chicago.
Wow.
Um, when you move somewhere you've never been, things get really weird because you don't know your way around. You don't know anybody. You don't know anything about the city. So when I first get to Chicago, because I stayed like a week at my grandmother's house in Wisconsin while I was trying to find an apartment. Um, the first day I came to Chicago to find an apartment, somehow I got lost on 47th Street.
Okay.
Um, one thing I know is the hood is the hood in every city you go to.
Of
It looks
course.
the same. It
Right.
looks the exact same. So as I'm going across 47, see a lot of brothers outside, see t-shirts, dagos, shorts. I was like, you know what? I'm in the wrong area.
Right.
I'm not supposed to be here. And everybody's looking at me because I'm coming through, and at this time I have this expedition that looks straight out of a rap video. I got TVs in there and huge rims, and the sounds are blaring. I got these California plates, so either they thought I was a rapper or a drug dealer, one of the two. But because in the hood, that's how the mentality looks like. So
Right.
as they're looking at me, and they're throwing gang signs at me, but I don't know the gangs here. So
Right.
I'm waving back to them all. Yeah, yeah, what's up? Peace. Um, I'm talking to a girl on the phone at the time that I still knew in LA. She's
Uh-huh.
like, "What's wrong?" I said, "I'm lost, man." She's like, "Why don't you just pull over and ask somebody where?" I said, "You don't understand what I'm looking at. Like, no, I'm not pulling over." I said, That's gonna make this whole situation worse. I'll just keep driving until something, comes up." So I get stopped by a cop because my music is too loud because I didn't know about Chicago's music ordinances with that.
Okay.
Um, he's kind of, when somebody asks you a dumb question that's like obvious but you're trying to respect them because of their title.
Mm-hmm.
That was this incident. He stops me, explains to me, "You know why I stopped you?" I said, "No. I thought I ran a stop sign." He's like, "No, your music is too loud." So I said, "Oh, all right. I apologize." I said, "I didn't know. I just got here. I
Right.
just came down here today." I said, "I'm trying to find an apartment. I'm supposed to go try to find an apartment, and I'm actually got lost." So he's like, as for my license and all that, artistic. Everything I have says California. My license plate, my registration, my driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
So he's standing there with me looking at all this, and he says, "So you're really from California?" Now, who would go through the hassle of having all those fake documents, you know, in this situation? You
Right.
know, so I said, "Yeah." I'm kind of looking at him, and like I said, in your heart, you want to ask, "Are you that stupid?" But I let it go, and so I go on about my way. He directs me to the highway, and I get out of there. Um, so then I come back again. Um, I found another apartment I was supposed to go see. This one's in Humboldt Park. I knew nothing about Humboldt Park. I get to this one, the guy never shows up. So I was like, man, I'm kind of hungry. So I go to California Division. There was like a Kentucky Fried Chicken right there at that time. And there's a little store next door. So I go to the little store next door to get some chips and a drink. And this is where you know that sometimes you don't think with the right head of what you're doing. I call my friend because when I moved to Chicago, my friend moved to Arizona, Sean. Um, so I'm talking to him on the phone. I said, "Man, I'm moving over here. There's a lot of fine girls over here, man. This is what I'm talking about." Unfortunately, the guy never showed up to show me the apartment. So now I'm like, man, I need some help with this. So I contact this company called the Apartment People. Now, here's where things get funny when you move to somewhere else. Like I said, you don't know anything about it. So they're asking me, "Well, where do you want to live?" I said, "I want to live in Chicago." So they're like, "Well, do you want to live on the north side, the west side, the south side?" I said, "I don't know. I want to live in Chicago. I don't, because I don't know what any of that means."
Right. Right. Right.
So I said, "Look, the only thing I know is where it is located is where I work. because at that time I was the manager for Big Lots by Cicero and Diversity.
Okay.
So I said, this is the only thing I know where it is to get to, and I got to get to work. So I need something that's close to this. So they find me this apartment in a 2-unit flat or whatever, 2 flat or whatever it's called, around the corner from the store. So, I'm there. Now I'm starting to, I get there and now of course I work there and people are like, so you found a place? I said, yeah. I said, man, I went to Humboldt Park, but the dude, and they were like, Humboldt Park? I said, yeah, man, it was nice over there. There was a lot of fine girls. They were like, where'd you go? I said, it was the other day. They said, man, it's dangerous over there. I said, what are you talking about? And see, I forgot the rule of thumb. Most time when you want to go see someplace, you should go at nighttime and then you kind of see to get the real story.
Right.
I didn't do that. So I was in the middle of the day. I'm thinking about all the fine girls that live around there. I didn't know about the gang situations over there because, like I said, I didn't know about Chicago gangs.
Right.
I was used to more things of LA gangs, simple things, Blood and Crip. So as I got educated there and I met people at work, they started taking me out. So I went to little clubs like Teeny Martini, these little lounges, and
Right.
There's a place called Cosmos and all that. So, at this time I'm just hanging out. My brother-in-law, who's my brother-in-law now, he was a bouncer at Cosmos, and he had invited his sister like several times. She never came. So one night she comes, and it's the night I'm there, and we get introduced to one another, and from there we start hanging out a little bit and so forth, and then things end up, like they are now, essentially is of us getting married and so forth. She helped me a lot too, understand a lot about this city, because she's born and raised here. So after that, I still had a regular job. I was bouncing. I worked for AJ Wright, but I really hated it. So I would come home and because I still had my equipment and all that, and my records, and I would be in the basement and I'd be DJing and whatnot. And she was like, you're really good. How come you don't DJ? And so I told her, the stories of what happened. But she talked me back into it. So in 2010 is when I officially became a DJ in Chicago. Well, I started my road.
Okay.
I didn't want to use my original moniker of Handz Solo. So when I first came out, I made up this moniker called BB Famous.
Okay.
Because I knew nothing about Serato and I was really rusty and so forth. So I was like, I'm gonna make this other alias that I'll run with for a while. We'll get to that had to be 2010. I go to somehow I hear about on TV or the radio or something, but Smirnoff was offering the Master of the Mix competition.
Mm-hmm.
So me being me, I felt, oh man, I can get in this and do work. I could do this. So she's like, yeah, let's do it. So we drive to Detroit, see Artistic, and remember I told you the hood is the hood wherever you go, right?
Right.
We get to Detroit. The competition is supposed to be downtown, but we're there the day before, so we need to find a place to stay. So we're looking for a hotel. As we start driving out of the city of Detroit, here we go again. I see a lot of brothers, bagels, shorts. I said, you know what? We better make a U-turn and go back towards the main city here. This looks too familiar again. So I said, I'm not gonna have my truck stripped in the middle of the night. This isn't gonna work.
Right.
So, we go, and then we stay at this hotel, and once again, nighttime hits. It's like chaos going on at this place. And Artistic, I swear to you, if I could have put my expedition inside of the room, I would have. I was pulled up so close to the hotel door that because I was like, I'm out the window like Malcolm. I'm looking. Hey man, every time I hear a noise, I don't even know how much sleep I got because we didn't do it. So we go to the competition. It was at the St. Andrews building, I think it was. So I get there, I see Kid Capri, and I don't know if Kid Capri remember me or vice versa. Because I think I had met him before a long time ago in LA, and I was probably inebriated or well on my way when
Okay.
I met him, because that wouldn't be the first time. Um, years ago I had met in the '90s. I had met Old Dirty, and I had no idea what I said to him.
Mm.
My friends are all laughing at me because I came out the bathroom and I seen him, and they just said I'd like threw my arm around him and I'm all in his ear talking, and I don't remember any of that. Like,
Okay.
but they said he's looking at me, and I'm assuming that he finally met somebody that was drunker than him.
Wow.
Um, but we're there now, so we go to the master of the mix. I'm in line, and there's all these DJs from all over the place, and so this is where I meet Most, DJ Most Definite.
Shout out to Most Definite, man. He tuned in. I don't know if he's still watching, but he said, "What's up, fellas?" And
That my man Most.
yeah.
This is where I meet Most, and it's funny because everybody there is sizing up everybody else. So
Okay.
because they put the names out of people, so YouTube is out there, so you can kind of YouTube and see some things on people. So
Right.
I knew who Most was, Most knew who I was, and so I don't know. We just kind of hit it off. We Most found out I was from Chicago. Um, we exchanged information and so forth. So when I came, we got back to the city. You know, Most had reached out to me and put me on a couple of things. And then when I came back, I had met. I was DJing for my wife was working at the bank, and one of the members of the rec center, Prophet, was working there. And he kept inviting my wife to hip hop events, but she wasn't really into hip hop like that then.
Right.
Um, but she told me, so I said, "Oh yeah, let's go check it out." So we go check it out. Um, they found out I DJ'd. They needed a DJ because their DJ was immaculate, but he was on to doing other things. And for those of you who don't know, the Rec Center was a group that came out of Elgin. Um, so we link up. I link up with them, and I'm DJing for them. So we're doing shows at different places, the dark room and things like that. So now I'm being exposed more to Chicago's hip hop because they're getting shows in the inner city because I guess a lot of people knew them from their first album, Lonely People or whatnot. And the Rec Center used to be a huge group. I don't know how many of them there were, but they eventually broke up, through their differences or whatever. But so I'm part of the new Rec Center that they had going on.
Okay.
Um, so we're doing these shows. So now I'm meeting different people. Shout out to my man Ambidextrous. Ambidextrous puts me on to DJ with him at this place called People's Lounge. From there, I I'm still doing my thing, and then I enter this battle in Milwaukee for the best DJ or whatever. So me and Ambidextrous are there. Ambidextrous gets disqualified because they told us if we use Serato, you had to use it straight up, in absolute mode. You couldn't use the cue points and all that.
Okay.
So I guess he didn't read the rules in that, so he got disqualified because he had used it that way. Um, I had read the rules, so I didn't use Serato. I used vinyl. I did and I ended up winning that battle.
Okay.
I never faced Ambidextrix, so the guy I faced that Ambidextrix got disqualified against, like I demolished that guy. But I've never battled against Ambidextrous. He's a great DJ, and he's put me on to a lot of things here.
Okay.
So after that, me and him are cool, and he's getting his crew together, which was the CTA, the California Turntablist Authority, which was Ambidextrous, Toltec, J Mars, and Artists or RTS.
Okay.
They had an event, and at this time, when that event is happening too, is the same time when Most and Jungle and them are putting Power Style together, and Most wanted me to be a part of the collective.
Okay.
Um, and I said, yeah. So, as I knocked heads with Most about things, we came up with the name Power Style Mixmasters. And that was a playoff of, because I told him in LA there was a station called K-Day back in the day that was all hip hop. It was on AM, kind of like what is it? WSPK. What's the station here? Artistic, the college station.
WHK?
Yeah, it was like that, but
Okay.
it was K-Day and it was on an AM station. It wasn't a college station, no, but it was ran by Greg Mack, and so they used to have this show every Saturday called the Mixmaster Show. They were called K-Day Mixmasters, and that's where you heard Joe Cooley, Aladdin, and all these DJs. They had mixes going. So I told Mos about that, and then so we started calling ourselves the Power Style Mixmasters.
Okay.
And then they had a logo, and because I did design, I tweaked the logo so it still represented Power Style, but we were another entity in that of Power Style Mixmasters.
Okay.
And so at another event that at that time when that is going on, now people have become more familiar with me. So Ambidextrous and them were trying to get to a DMC in, I think, London. So they were having a fundraiser for it. So they had me on. The night I did that fundraiser is the night I met Heck from Chirac. Rest in peace to Heck.
Mm-hmm.
I meet Heck there, and it's kind of funny because when I seen him, he looked like he looked like Biggie from the Big Papa video. He had this brown coat on, this little driver cap. So and that's what made me look at him, because he looked like Biggie.
Right.
So I was like, I didn't know who he was. So, I introduced myself, and, he said he had been checking me out. He had seen me in a couple of things. And that was my introduction to him.
Okay.
Short time after that, they had another event. I forgot the name of that place, but that's where Mos presented me to Heck, and then Heck blessed me in the chapter 4.
Okay.
So, with mine and Heck, and now I'm a part of that, in which, I was very honored because, I didn't know. I'm like, I'm not from Chicago, man. Like, I don't know how people feel about this and so forth.
Right.
And so from there, as I started learning and so forth, so I'm participating in the fresh back to school jams and the Christmas jams and things that mine was putting on.
Right.
And still making my way through DJing and doing stuff like that. And then, eventually I was introduced to you. We're at that big Chirac, where we went to the, what is it, Terradome?
Yes.
Is that where that was at?
Well, I think
But
prior
to that, we went to that pizza place. I know that.
That was the first time we met, at the pizza place.
Yeah, because everybody was contemplating where the meeting was going to take place.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I got the honor to go to the meeting at the Terradome, where, you learn a little more history about the movement and what it was about and so forth and so on. And, I know me and you always talk about it, because I still remember this day, when I said people, what I seen was a lot of people need to heal before they move forward. Right. There were so many people that are grown men now that were still mad about something when you guys were 18, 20, 19 years old.
Yeah.
And okay, can you really still be mad about something like that? You're an old man now.
Right.
And that's when I'm looking at something, where people, because, when you guys wanted to dissolve the chapters and it was just going to be Chirac, and everybody seemed to have a problem with that, when you're not understanding the bigger picture of this. This is bigger than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever.
Right.
But everybody's, oh, well, this chapter did that. Okay, great. But you all represent one thing. So I don't see what the power struggle is here of, especially when, you and some others were laying out the details. Okay, the board and so forth and how things were going to be.
Right.
And at this time too, I was being, I wouldn't say that I was necessarily a full member, but I was attending with the Renegades of Funk as well.
Right.
because they do the Battle of the Eagle and all that and so forth. And you know, a lot of things can be taken. They can be taken back. I'll just say that, you know, because you know, for me, I give 100%. If I'm committed, I'm committed, and I'm in. Um, when I decided to step back from Chirac was, you know, when I entered the DMC. Okay, 2016, I entered the DMC
Is this you right
because
here, the DMC?
that is correct.
Nice.
That is me.
Yes,
Um,
2016. Yeah.
and when I entered that, I told you I hadn't entered a DMC battle since 1999.
Okay.
I had not participated in anything of that nature. But as I told you, I know my history.
Yeah.
So when I understood DMC was coming here, people had told me Chicago had not had a DMC in over 10 years.
Right.
Um, because they weren't getting the draw that they needed to basically support, you know, DMC feeling the need to come here.
Right.
I had seen DJs like Ambidextrix and Toltec having to go to other cities and win to put Chicago on the map.
Right.
So my wife had never seen me in battle. So I said, you know what? I'm going to enter this to represent the city because for the longest time, my struggles here all the time have been people want to look at me as an outsider.
Okay.
I've lived here since 2007.
Right.
I am a resident of Chicago.
Exactly.
I've never said, I tell people I'm from LA, but I don't say I'm not from Chicago.
Oh, right. Okay.
Even if I go back home, yeah, where do you live? I live in Chicago now.
Right.
So, you know, I can't disrespect where I'm from.
Right.
That's how you can't go home.
Right. Right.
So I don't think people have ever clearly processed that I've never been disrespectful to the city. Like I said, everything somebody's asked me, I was willing to do. Hey man, yeah, all right. If it's for the culture, I'm for it.
Right.
Because I can't for me, I love hip hop. There's nothing ever going to change that.
Right.
For me.
Right.
So when the DMC came, I wanted to enter because, you know, a lot of DJs do a lot of talk and they don't really back that up.
Right.
So there weren't a lot of DJs from Chicago willing to put themselves out there, you know.
Right.
When you go to DMC, that's mano y mano. Nobody's there to dance.
Right. Right.
Everybody's standing,
Right. Like
waiting to see what you're gonna do.
Right. Right. Right.
So if you're not a DJ that's built like that, you know, hey, have your fun hiding in the shadows of a club playing music. And that's why people don't understand. I'm not disrespectful to somebody, but you don't DJ like that. When you call yourself a DJ, you play music.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really do things that DJs do. And I don't use the word turntablist because turntablist, that word put a lot of DJs in a box.
Okay.
Because it segregated DJs. When I came up in the era of DJs like Jam Master Jay and Scratch and Cash and all these guys, you did everything. You battled, you did parties, you did mixtapes, you did everything.
Right.
You didn't just scratch or I just battle. I just scratch. They've allowed all these terms to come into place and, you know, segregate them.
Yeah.
Where now DJs are segregated, basically. Okay. You know, this person, oh, I'm just a club DJ. What does that mean?
Right.
You know, before DJs were proud of your skill set. You wanted to be one of the baddest people on the planet.
Right.
And your skill set was how you was going to show that. And most DJs, how they wanted to expand that was they wanted to DJ for a group where you got to travel the world and show people your DJ skills. So when that artist had a 20-minute DJ segment for you, you were trying to tear the house down so everybody would remember who you were.
Right.
Why do you think the world remembers DJ Scratch? Scratch was only in one battle that we know of, and that was the New Music Seminar. And you could not find any footage or recording of anything about that battle. The only thing we've ever seen of that is scratch on the back of the EPMD cover with the New Music Seminar belt.
Right.
And for DJs, just like MCs, that belt meant the world to you. Like I said, when I started battling, that's what I wanted. I wanted that belt more than anything.
Right.
So when I got to the battle, when I knew I wanted to enter, I reached out to Worm because I wanted Worm to make me a shirt. I said, Worm, who did the tag for the Chirac? I said, I want that on a shirt for me to wear. I'm gonna wear it in the DMC.
Yes.
Worm told me it was Hex.
Yes.
So then I asked mine, would she mind if I had Worm make me a shirt like that for the DMC?
Right.
In which, she blessed me with that. So when I went to the DMC, not only was I representing myself in Chicago, but I was representing Chirac.
Right.
When I decided that I wanted to step away from things is because the things that I noticed. Chirac has, I don't even know how many members they have, to be honest anymore, artistic. But,
right.
When you have that many members and you don't feel the support of those members in events and things that you're doing, then that makes me feel like, what am I a part of if we're not all a part of something? If I'm supporting for the culture, because if I'm doing the back to school jam or the Christmas jam, I didn't get paid for that. That was for the cause.
Right.
So for me, the least you could do is support something else that is generating money for me on this journey. Equipment and all that ain't free.
Right.
Same with the Renegades of Funk. I went to things, and at the time, the Battle of the Eagle was more of a breaking event. And I wanted to see, I kicked the idea that it would be better off. Maybe you should have a DJ battle or an MC battle, include more elements, because obviously they're doing graph there because they got the graffiti, trophies, and they got the breaking events.
Right.
But it could be so much better because it's a park jam. You had people coming out there, and some of those people that are coming just want to hear some music.
Right.
They don't want to watch b-boy events, the b-boys dancing and so forth the whole time.
Right.
That's a select group you're marketing to. And, again, those ideas were kind of pushed to the back. And then it's kind of funny that, those ideas were pushed after I was like not in the picture of deciding that, hey, I don't want to do this. You know what I mean?
Mm.
When, like I said, my objective is not to take over, nor am I causing negativity. But like I said, for me, hip hop is bigger than everybody. And as a DJ, and this is something that we say on Red Cup Radio all the time, nobody's bigger than the music.
Right.
So, if you're asking something to me, I think the minimum that I'm asking of you is not too much to ask. A share. Hey man, I'm doing this event. Come out. And you get that. And I've said this about other artists. People get on Facebook and they say they have 5,000 friends and all that. And then you go to the event and there's 10 people there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't even got half of your so-called friends.
Right. Right.
And this is the sad thing that I see. And, I just don't digest it of the lack of support that the city has for itself. Because since I moved here, and like I said, I've said this numerous times in interviews, there is so much talent here. I didn't realize all the talented people that are here. The Sam I Ams, the Shadow Masters, the Anais, the Ange 13s, and all these people that I had never heard of before I came here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why? You guys have all heard of the Alcoholics and Exhibit and all these guys, and it was the exact same thing.
Right. Right.
But then, because like I said, when you look at Chicago, and I've said this to people, when you're a person not from Chicago, it looks like Chicago has an artist once every so many years.
Mm.
I had an EC, how I got introduced to EC Illa here?
No.
One day I pulled out the vinyl for EC Illa. I was going through my records and I just showed it, and he came in there. He came on and commented on it. I didn't even know who he, actually know him.
Right.
But I had his vinyl, and I got that in a record pool.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and then I had Twisters, but the record used to say Tongue Twister on it.
Right. Right.
The vinyl, the early vinyl that I have is. But there's so many gaps, you know what I mean? Then, on the West Coast, then we got introduced to Common. And, the story with Common gets weird because, for him to truly gain his success, he had to move to New York. You know what I mean?
Right.
But unless you know the background on it, you didn't really know that because he always represented Chicago in his videos and so forth.
Yes, he did.
So, but then after that, there's gaps again, you know what I mean? Then you get introduced to like the Brat, but then you don't really know if the Brat is from Chicago or from Atlanta because of the narrative they're painting, the industry.
Yeah.
So, but in the middle of all this going on, while we were introduced being spoon-fed one artist at a time, there's Ange and Mike Ones and Shadow Masters and all these people putting in work.
Yep.
And it's not reaching the boundaries that it should.
Right.
And it's because, yes, competition is healthy, but competition is also unhealthy when you're out just so determined to sabotage the next person or you hate the next person and you don't really have a reason to. Instead of creating something that's bigger than all of you and saying, you know what? We're just going to kick the door open too. Because for the longest, New York didn't respect LA because LA was looked at as all gangster rap.
Mm-hmm.
So you started getting groups like the Alcoholics and the Far Side and Souls of Mischief and
right.
Oh, they do have regular hip hop groups.
Right.
And it's something that I've always looked at. I'm like, this city has so much potential, but they let the smallest minute details derail the whole thing. And nobody can ever figure out why. They don't really go out and support their own artists. Like you go to Sam's show, Sam's show should be packed.
Right.
And it's not, He's at Sub T in the lounge area. And it's not the walls aren't busting open.
Right. Right.
And even, and Sam, okay, you may not buy his album, but his live show is incredible because I've never seen a guy that can freestyle like that except for maybe Supernatural.
Right. Right.
That's crowd interaction at its finest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen somebody. I mean, I've seen people like Medusa and so forth, but Ange's stage presence is second to none to me when you look at a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Sam and these people, and these are people that they're almost like urban legends if you didn't live here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The way the radio is here, they're not even trying to help these people.
Yeah.
Because they're part of the machine as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for Chicago to have such a rich music history that goes back to Chess Records and all this, things should be a lot different than they are. Yeah. I understand that house music is always going to be the predominant music here. It has a stranglehold on it. And I don't know if that set Chicago back in the table as far as the hip hop timeline goes, because so many people were so pro house that they didn't want to really give hip hop that moment. Because even when you hear people like Pump and Pete and them say that, they were like one of the first DJs to play hip hop. When he's saying that, a lot of people were already playing hip hop.
Right. Right.
House music is great, but I mean, something else came along and it's okay for it to be different, but you were supposed to put your stamp on it and say, hey, all right, this is Chicago's hip hop. Right. Every city has a specific sound, and even if the city doesn't get along, those cities have been bombarded to say, well, look, it's us against everybody else then.
Yeah.
LA don't get me wrong. By no means does everybody in LA get along, but guess what? See, that thorn in their side is New York. When New York says something, then everybody in LA is no, hold on, man. You don't get to say that. Hold on.
Right.
You know, and that's like the South. When they got tired of everybody else stomping on them, they unified, said, you know what? We'll just flood the industry, no problem.
Right.
And look, in the New York and LA were so busy fighting, the South just rolled right on through.
Right.
You know, people seem to forget, you know, Miami was on the scene. It's just people didn't want to accept it when the 2 Live Crew was out.
Right.
And people discredit the 2. Oh, that's not hip hop. It is hip hop. And they went to the Supreme Court to fight for our First Amendment rights.
Right. So
You know, oh yeah, go ahead.
okay, so let me say a few things because I know you've been talking for quite.
I know. I'm sorry, man. I just rambled through it on you.
You know, but I like how you painted your timeline. You have a very good memory, and you actually delivered your story almost in a movie format. You know what I'm saying, with dates and what have you. So that's excellent. But now it kind of comes back to this, and I think it's actually universal because you mentioned, like you say, you know, not everybody's perfect in California either. But I think just in hip hop, nothing's perfect, right? But
No, not at all.
I know I can only speak from personal experience being here in Chicago, and as you lamented a little earlier about not showing the needed unity, and I think, you know, it's a little bit of that everywhere, right? You know, like everybody is trying to sell their items and their products, but they're not willing to support somebody else's. They want you to support them, but they're not willing to support you, right? And we all just
The dangers of social media.
we all just trying to make it, right? We all trying to survive. We all trying to come up out the barrel, whatever you want to call it. But you know, you know, there is a price that has to be paid at some point. If we all sitting in the car and the car stops, or we're driving and the car stops for whatever reason, and it just won't start again. Typically, in order for that car to move, one or more people are going to have to get out and push, right?
Correct.
So if only one person is pushing the car, that car may just inch a little bit at a time. But if it's like 4 or 5 people in the car, if all 5 people got out and pushed the car, guess what? The car's gonna move a lot faster, right?
We moving.
You're right. You know, so I think that, you know, a big factor in why hip hop sometimes looks stagnant in general, and specifically here in Chicago, is because of selfishness. You know, again, you know, I want you to support me, but I don't want to support you. And it just doesn't, you know, like, you can't really get anything out of the bank if you don't put anything in there, right?
Right. That loan has to mature.
So, you know, so I kind of feel like, you know, like even the Bible says, you know, do unto others as you would want them to do unto you, right? So if I don't want you to be nasty to me, then I have no right to be nasty to you, right? So, you know, and I think some of those principles are hard to follow. They're easy to understand, but they're hard to follow. You know,
100%.
And I think at some point, just like you said, because that's how New York did it, they didn't all get along, and some of them probably still don't get along today. But you know what? Like you say, when it comes down to a specific event, a specific achievement that they want to reach, they like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. We bring this stuff. Even if you go back to the 70s when they did the park jams, you know what I'm saying? They were battling back then in the 70s, right? You know, see who could attract the most crowd on their side where the equipment was at, right? But at the end of the day, they still had to work together to some degree, because it's like, okay, I ain't got no equipment. How am I participate in this park battle? You know, okay,
right.
You know what? I do have a speaker. Okay, well, how about you bring one speaker? He's gonna bring another speaker. I'll bring the records. You know, just put stuff together.
And it's funny that you say that, because you know what? This city, I went to New York a couple years back, and I went to a park jam.
Yeah.
And man, that was an incredible experience. And you know what? The funny thing was, this Chicago is such a beautiful city with so many beautiful parks. Mm-hmm. And why are we not doing that in all these beautiful parks? Exactly. Something positive for these shorties that's out here killing themselves.
Exactly.
Why are we not taking it back? You know, because there's some beautiful parks here, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you could easily throw these park jams in the summer. Because that's the one thing I've learned, man, since I moved here. Summertime is a valuable thing, man.
Right.
You know,
Right.
when I lived in LA, you kind of take that for granted. I learned what cabin fever is,
Okay.
living here. So, when Kanye and them was like, summertime shy, man, people always say, do you miss home? I was like, only in the wintertime. I said, I wouldn't trade summertime for anything.
Okay. Okay.
But, I mean, you've been here a long time, so how come we don't have those kind of things?
You know what, man, and this is where I want to kind of get to as we kind of wrap up this interview, because there has been a struggle in hip hop, and specifically, I'm speaking from the perspective of Chicago because I've only lived in Chicago all my life. I've traveled to other cities, of course, but I've only really
Right.
been stationary here in Chicago. And again, there has been a big problem with support. There have been some things throughout the years that have changed the motif, so to speak, but it hasn't been an ongoing thing. And I think some people haven't followed and pursued the same goal, right?
Okay.
Like you mentioned, with the record labels, yeah, we had a long string of that in our history, but it hasn't pursued to catch on to where it's like almost like what you call those Lego locks. You put those things together, they just lock and they hold. You know what I'm saying? And you can keep building off of that because it's gonna stick, right? So I think like more people with the mindset of realizing that we need to unify, we need to work together. I'm gonna bring this. Can you bring that? More people need to do that. Like when we talk about most is, in my opinion, one of the most. To me, he's kind of like the personification, in my opinion, of unity. I mean, because he's always been a very friendly kind of dude. You know what I'm saying? And I think we have to exhibit. Same with Jungle. I met Jungle in the '90s, and Jungle was not even from Chicago. B-boy Jungle,
Right.
and and then when the Power Style thing came on, I'm just like, wow, I really felt, like, okay, here is something that we got going on in our city right here. When they came up with the whole week of activity to do Power Style, I was like, that's dope. You know what I'm saying? But then it just disappeared. Right. And I totally understood. When I talked to Jungle, he was like, hey, man, it's a lot of work. We don't have enough support. You know what I'm saying? I can't keep doing and carrying the heavy loads of what needs to be done. We all need to like put in our participation collectively. Right.
Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry to cut in on you on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can agree with that because I didn't even touch on it for you, but
Yeah. Handz Solo? Uh-oh, looks like he froze up.
oh.
Yeah. There you
All
go.
right.
Yeah.
That's why Red Cup Radio went away. Yep. Artistic. Red Cup Radio was designed when I created that, it went through 3 different phases because we used to be at Q4 with Power Style. And when I originally did it, it was gonna be like Chicago news. Shadow Master was on sports, Jory was on weather. We had Miss V and Madam President, and we were trying, everything was Chicago.
Right.
When I moved into my house here, it was me and Jory at first, and then we brought Audacity in.
Mm-hmm.
And the vision was Rap City because that was a void missing altogether, where you could see these people in the elements. We're in my basement. We're playing all Chicago music. Well, it started out all Chicago music. Then it turned into all underground artists. But all the freestyle artists were from Chicago that came here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you got to see this person in the Red Cup room freestyling.
I remember.
And we threw a Red Cup event. And we gave out a trophy that was a Red Cup to maintain because his video for his freestyle had achieved like 5,000 views. He had the most views out of everybody.
Okay.
But like Jungle, when the lack of support comes, it gets hard to just keep carrying that load for something, and when something goes away, then people complain and they, oh man, why you not doing it no more, blah, blah, blah. Well, they don't understand the flip side of that. At the crib here, I got people over and they're drinking up everything and so forth,
Right.
and there's nothing coming in,
Yeah.
so that's coming directly out of my pocket,
Yeah.
and then when we throw an event and you're not showing up to the event, you're not even helping there to offset it. Well, we're saying, well, let's throw these events so we can support the merch and everything else that we're trying to do to make this bigger and make it bigger and bigger. So I'll let you get back to your thing, but I agree with Jungle on that. It gets hard.
Yes. Yes. And so I would just like to say this because again we can talk this down into the ground, right? But when do we come up with a solution? Like you said at the Chirac meeting years ago, some people need to heal, right? But along with healing, you still gotta acquire a great work ethic. You gotta roll up those sleeves and get to work. You can't.
That's number one.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? You can't if you go get a job, you can't just punch the clock and wait to get paid. You gotta go to work, otherwise you're not gonna have a job, right?
Right.
So I think, man, and I feel you, my brother. I feel you, with the support, but again, like you say, you love hip hop, I love hip hop. A lot of us love hip hop, and really, at the end of the day, that should be the motivating factor. Now, there's other layers to this thing. Some people like, hey, I ain't doing nothing if I ain't gonna get paid. Okay, well,
I
that's
get that, and I get people are older, and life sets in, and I
yeah,
get all that.
yeah. But again, it's nothing moves without I would say without concerted group effort. Like none of us do anything by ourselves. At the
No,
end of the day, you can't start a family by yourself. You can't, there's nothing that you can really do by yourself. Even if you had all the money in the world, it can't buy you happiness. You know what I'm saying?
no, not at all.
So we have to have each other to enjoy life. We might get on each other's nerve and rub each other the wrong way from time to time because that's just us as imperfect humans. But the best enjoyment is to be with your brother and sister doing what you love to do. You know
I
what I'm
told
saying?
most that when I was on his show, because people have this misconception that that me and Most have a problem or whatever.
Okay.
Most is my favorite enemy, man. I love my brother Most, man, because he'll make me mad. And I told him this. I was like, man, there's times where Most will make me mad. And I'm like, man, f him for a little bit, man.
Right.
And then Most will leave me alone. Then he'll reach out to me. Hey, Papa, what's up? And we're okay again. We're okay again.
Yeah. I mean,
And that's why I love Most, because like I said, man,
yeah.
he does so much and he tries so hard.
Yeah.
And sometimes, man, he'll just piss me off, and I'm like, man, Most, come on, man,
Yeah.
And then I back off for a while,
Yeah.
and then, like I said, and then we're back, cool.
Yeah.
But like I said, this is a guy that I met just in Detroit
Yeah.
originally. When I first met Most.
Yeah.
And here we are 13 years later, and like I said, man, he's my favorite guy to get mad at, man. But I love Most, man. He's my everybody has ups and downs.
And I think another thing that kind of blinds us sometimes is we like to look at each other's faults. We'll point out every little fault that you have and broadcast that, but then all the good qualities that you have, we'll keep it quiet. We don't want to say nothing about it.
That's the new world of social media. Have you ever tried that experiment? I always look at, like I said, everything on social media, I don't even take personal because social media is an experiment.
Right.
You could put up something positive, tell everybody good morning, hope they have a blessed day. You'll get 2 likes.
Right.
You say you having a crappy day, the world is on fire, or you hate this person, and here's all the rest of the chirp birds coming right in there. You got a million comments and likes, and it's all negative energy.
Yep. So I think at some point, man, moving forward, we're in 2023, and ideally, specifically this year, we're supposed to be excited about celebrating.
Survived COVID, right?
Yeah, we survived. We would survive, and the fact that now the world has actually stopped to pay attention to learn and observe and take in what hip hop is really all about. Like, okay, okay, I'm paying attention now. Y'all got my attention. Y'all celebrating 50 years of hip hop. Okay, y'all got my attention. Everybody wants to be acknowledged. Nobody wants to be forgotten. You know what I'm saying? Because you did work. Everybody, to some degree, have put in some work. So everybody wants to have their acknowledgments, right? And so I feel like this is a time for all of us to be celebrating. Like not just your celebrations, but my celebrations, his celebrations, and her celebrations. Everybody's achievements, right? And I think if we just put down the egos, man, because I feel like if you don't stop that ego, it's going to continue to get inflated, and it's going to be miserable for you and everybody else around you because of your ego and your attitude and all the, like you say, the negative energy. But once we can come together and say, you know what, I'm imperfect, I make mistakes, please forgive me. You know what I'm saying? Let's get back to work. Let's get on it. Let's do what we get. Let's look at the big picture and do what we got to do.
Right.
I'm so sorry to hear, because I've had some bad experiences where I've walked away a couple times from certain things. But you know what? When I walked away and I sat back, I was worse at sitting back than I was involved, because I was missing the camaraderie between my brothers and sisters. And it's almost just like a fleshly brother and sister. Y'all might get mad at each other and have a few words, or you and your brother might punch each other, whatever. But at the end of the day, y'all still family. Y'all still live in the same household. You still got to see each other, to some degree.
And that's why, like, I'm not an ill-willed person towards anybody. So if I see you, I'm still courteous and, jokey if we joke like that or whatever, and it's cool. You know what I mean? I just don't have any expectations with that person anymore. Like, I just take it at face value of, all right, this is where we at, and I just keep moving to where I'm going. Because like I said, for me, I don't have time for negative energy. Like, because outside of everything going on, regardless if I work a 9-to-5 job, whatever, for me, my life is great.
Okay.
I wouldn't trade it in for anything.
Right.
I've been through ups and downs, and like you said, I'm still here.
Yeah.
The world changes, and we get older. Father time sets in and all this, but I'm still here to, share a story here or there, or, build with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, you want to do this? Yeah, all right. Hey, you want to do this? Nah, you know what? I'm better off going to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, what would you like to say in conclusion, my brother? What kind of positive thing could you leave with anybody up and coming? Because I'm sure, there's other people. There may be somebody watching this interview right now with feeling the same way and looking for what could be the answer to these problems. You know what I'm saying? How can we make a change?
I mean, honestly, there's no real answer to it. We just got to do better as a people, as a community, as a society, and it's one person, one step at a time. You know what I mean? Like I said, this city in particular, because like I said, I'm not in LA like that. I go to visit and things like that, but I'm not there to turn on the news every day like I am here.
Right.
And the things I see going on in this city, man, it leaves a lot of hopelessness. And, if the mayor and them can't get it done, maybe the hip hop community needs to get it done. To get these shorties, because you know what? It's not even old dudes doing this.
Yeah.
This is shorties out here ruining their lives.
Yeah.
Carjacking, because they don't see a healthy alternative.
Right.
And, people in our generation, when we didn't see a healthy alternative, that's how hip hop came.
There you go. And that kept us busy. It kept us.
So hip hop needs to get back to this new generation somehow, man, because they're getting lost and they're getting farther and farther down the road. And at some point it's going to be unrecoverable for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, either dead, jail, which is nothing I want to, you know, the things I'm seeing them do, man, I couldn't imagine myself stealing cars and pulling guns on people at 16, 17. Like I said, I was a DJ. I was trying to be a B-boy. I was trying to draw.
Right.
And apparently nobody's fostering the young people's talents now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's so self-absorbed on social media and so forth that nobody's fostering these kids into something more healthy and productive for themselves. If they don't have the role models to see, they only see what they see. And this other part of hip hop that glorifies material things is not helping them.
Right.
Because, you know, when we came up, Run DMC was talking about they had a Ford.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you drive a Cadillac, I drive a Ford. They was talking about Volvos.
Right.
These cats now is talking about Bugattis and Mercedes and things that most of us will never be able to afford in our lifetime.
Exactly.
But you got kids out here taking penitentiary chances to get those things
Yeah.
because of the hip hop that they're listening to now.
Yeah.
You know, and this is where, you know, the underground or whatever needs to try to foster them into productive things and show them that, hey man, all ain't lost. You can do something else. Turn a corner here. You know, I look at people that are artists such as yourself and Worm that have taken your talents and you get paid for those talents at the place. You're not writing on walls or subways anymore.
Right. Right.
And there's a lot of people out there that are talented and they don't know they're talented and don't know how to use their talents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so they're using, you know, they're shutting off the brain and doing things that are going to be irreversible damage for them in the long run. Because this world is not getting easier as we age.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. And at some point we gotta be the ones to set the example. You know, we can't just keep waiting and pointing the finger at somebody else to do it. We have to be the ones to set the example. So I just want to conclude by saying this, my brother. I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? You were one of the guys that I felt like, you know, hey, you know, regardless of you being from California, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? You know, Poppin' Chuck is from California. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? There's other people that
I mean, there's a lot of transplants here.
yeah. And that, but at the end of the day, and this is one point that I would like to close with, that some people a lot of times forget the essence or the foundation of the Shot Rock Nation was to build off of no matter where you were from or what you did or what color your skin color was. Your love for hip hop is what the only thing that mattered. Hey, you down for this? Okay, come on, let's go. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do this right here in our city, just like other people did in their city. You know, but and that was the essence of Heckle. That's why, like you know, like you when you was kind of like, oh wow, you know, I'm not from Chicago, and you know, how people going to take this? You know, Heck was that type of dude. Like, hey man, you know, we gonna represent you here. You in Chicago right now, so you family to us.
Right. And you know the ironic part, I told you I spun that night, right?
Yeah.
So when I got off, I had Heck. He tagged my vinyl. Him, Nightwalker, I think Shadow Master, because I had the record on the wall.
Okay.
And I still have it from when I first met him. And the match to that record, mine has, because when Heck passed away, Sub T had threw an event, and I wanted, because Power Style had me do like a tribute mix kind of to Heck, in which I did, and I felt really weird about it, considering that, you know, there were so many other seasoned DJs and people that I felt had the right to do that. I was asked to do it, so I did it.
Right.
But you know, that night when Sub T, after we left Power Style, you know, Sub T had an event, and the other record of that, mine has, and it's signed by so many Shot Rock members.
That's what's up.
I don't know where mine put it or whatever, but you know, that might be something that would be dope for you guys' hip hop museum if you ever could get a hold of it, because it's signed by so many shock rock members like that I didn't know, but they, once they found out what I was doing, a lot of them introduced themselves, and like I said, this was, I don't remember a lot of their names. This was years ago, you know what I mean, when this happened. But that other record is completely covered,
Wow.
artistic, like with signatures of, members from Shy Rock.
Wow. Well, listen, man, I enjoyed your story thoroughly. You have a very interesting story, man, and you was able to tell it well. I didn't even have to ask a lot of questions because you were taking me down the road, right?
Remember what Nas said, right? I mean, remember in the Nas song when it says, if somebody wrote a book about your life, do you think anybody would read it?
Yeah.
You gotta, like I said, my life hasn't been perfect, but I would never trade anything about it.
Yeah.
Because if I change anything, then all the other things that I love the most never happen.
Right. Yeah. And send a shout out to your wife for me, man, because I know she's a very supportive role model for you, in your endeavors. You know what I'm saying? It's always good to
Yeah.
have
I wouldn't know. See, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't know any of you guys if I never met her.
Wow.
I mean, because, like I said, my hip hop journey here started with me meeting the rec center guys.
Yeah.
And from there but I would never know one of them if they didn't work with her.
Right. See,
But everything's a learning process. Because, like I said, she wasn't into hip hop like that, but now she does like certain artists from Chicago, as well as her hip hop knowledge overall has gotten a lot more with things.
that's what's up. So what do you got? What are you working on currently? Any future projects that you're working on at this moment?
I've been dabbling in my production thing now, and I've been really wanting to work with artists, and because I had this concept, and it's just called intellectual property. Um, and I've got different songs that I just want artists to get on and do their thing, and I've gotten back into the streaming game because I've been in and out of it. I've streamed longer than most people. I used to stream when it was Ustream and Livestream were the only streaming platforms. Um, so I've had different streaming shows, and the streaming game is really different now.
Yeah.
But I am on Twitch every Thursday. Um, I got a show called The Fundamentals, but it's spelled with a PH.
Okay.
It's every Thursday from 7 to 9, where I just play all kind of stuff. You might hear house, you might hear freestyle, you might hear old school hip hop, R&B. It's just DJing and good music. But that's every Thursday.
Nice.
And I'm trying to build that up because I want to have Mos and other DJs back on the show like I used to do with other shows I've done. But, everything is about building up the following. I'm never a person that wants to steal somebody else's fan base or intrude on them when I'm not bringing anything to the table. It's kind of rough when you don't bring fans. And this is what I'm talking about when I say, like, people present themselves like they have this following, but, when the rubber needs to meet the road, they're not there.
Right.
Even tonight, where you bring me on here, and it's a lot of people that know me, like me or whatever, but don't like me, but they don't tune in.
Yeah.
So then and I'm like, this isn't even my show, but man, you could at least tune into the show and and support this person versus me coming on your show, and then all of a sudden all your fans and followers are following me, but I didn't give anything in return of people to follow RYC.
Right.
So I'm never a person. I'm not a culture vulture. I'm not a big fan of eating off somebody else's plate and I didn't bring anything. You know what I mean?
I feel you.
So, I've always been just a person to just grind it out and try to build it up. But those are the things I'm working on right now. That I may start putting out mixes again on platforms because I took all of my mixes off platforms. Because at the same time, I felt there was a lot of people stealing material
Okay.
and things, which you know, I don't know. It's just hard for me to like. Sometimes it's hard to embrace the new things we're in because video shows everybody how you did something and so forth and so on. Where I'm from the era where you know when Jazzy Jeff introduced the Transformer scratch, there was no video to show me how to do it.
Right.
I had to listen to the record or the radio and try it and try different things until I came up with something that I thought sounded like that.
Right. Yeah.
Now there's a video to show you how to do anything, and
Yeah.
for me that you're watering down um, a lot of people's talents because now they're not pushing the envelope anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're complacent of just learning how to do something and replicate something that you've seen somebody else do.
Right. Right. Yeah, man. It's a lot of work, man. We got a lot of work yet still ahead of ourselves, but I think at the end of the day, man, I would like to just say this to you specifically is to keep your head up, my brother, and keep doing what you're doing and what you love. And I'm gonna do the same. And hey, man, we should break some bread sometime, man, and just try to be
Indeed.
a source of encouragement to one another and to any others that would like to receive it, just so that we can keep moving, man. Because again, our time, we're not gonna be here forever on this side of the earth, right? And so while we are here, I just want to enjoy the rest of the days left, man, in any way that I can with anybody that would like to do that with me. You know what I'm
That's where
saying?
I'm at, artistic. That's
Yeah.
exactly where I'm at now, man. I learned there's not a lot of time. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I look back and I'm like, man, all that time is gone already. Like,
Yeah.
and it went so fast.
Yeah. 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 And like I say, man, you can't take it back, once it's gone.
Yeah.
So,
But I try to talk to people, younger people, and especially explain to them, man, time time kicks into hyper speed, man.
yep.
At once you pass, your 20s into your 30s, time kicks into hyper speed all of a
Yes.
sudden.
Yeah.
And you're looking back and you're saying, man, where did it all go?
Right. 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 That's what's up.
But, I enjoyed it. I appreciate being on your show.
Yes, sir.
Much love to everybody out there that was tuned in. If I didn't bring you up, it's not that I forgot you, but, I can't have artistic up till tomorrow, telling my story.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, man, and we open back up July 1st, so hopefully you'll get a chance to come down and check us out with the new exhibit. If you have any items that you'd like to donate to be a part of it, man, we'd be more than happy to represent, and just come down and build, man. Again, like I say, we still got a lot of work to do, but I think what's more important is that we keep trying, putting forth the effort.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
No
So,
doubt.
One love, my brother. I salute
All right,
you.
you guys.
Take care, my brother.
Much love. Peace.
All right.